sister, stepmom, and dad here, and I'm going to tell you about the dangers of fast fashion. Look at your shirt tag. Where was it made? Indonesia, Mexico, Malaysia, Pakistan. All of these countries seem far away and out of mind for us as Western North Carolinians, but across the ocean, people just like us work every single day to produce the shirts we wear and provide for their families. Yet, many of these workers don't even make our minimum wage. In fact, the majority of them make less than what we would make in an hour on minimum wage in one day. Additionally, all of these young women who have worked on the shirt that you're wearing have left their families to work in unsafe factories, sending all of their earnings back home. What was your shirt made from? How was it grown? It was probably made from genetically modified cotton, which contains chemicals that harm the environment. Or it might have been sewn with synthetic, non-biodegradable materials, which pollute the environment after you toss away your shirt that you don't like anymore. 1 year ago, I purged my closet, and instead of replacing the clothes that I had outgrown with mall staples, I turned to Goodwill and local thrift shops to buy my new clothes. My goal for this was to help local community and international causes rather than contributing to the fast fashion issue. In my small act of learning to repurpose and upcycle secondhand clothes, I hope that I made a little impact in somebody else's life. Today, I'll be explaining to you the danger in supporting fast fashion companies and how you can end the cycle of environmental and human abuse in the clothing industry. My research for this presentation comes from the following 5 articles: The Hidden Human Cost of Fast Fashion, We Have One Eye Open and One Eye Closed, The Dirty Labor Secrets of Fast Fashion, The Environmental Costs of Fast Fashion, The True Cost for Workers of the Fast Fashion Industry, and Why Fast Fashion is a Bad Thing. Fast fashion companies exploit outsourced workers and perpetuate poverty in overseas communities. And fast fashion also prioritizes cheap production and discard of clothing materials, putting enormous stress on the planet's water supply and on the environment. Before we head to the fitting room to try on our clothes, they rest in the tired hands of factory workers. The aspect of fast fashion which gives me the most guilt is the manipulation and poor conditions of workers in undeveloped regions. The majority of workers in the fast fashion industry are vulnerable underage girls, like my sister. 80% of employees working in the clothing industry are women, and it's exceedingly common for women in these factories to be sexually harassed. Women working in fast fashion factories don't make a living wage and must work overtime to survive, and most of the money that they make isn't even for their own needs, it's for their families. Workers are blocked from organizing in unions by factory administrators and have no way of changing their situation because of this. Also, because of limited opportunities and overwhelming poverty, women in these countries have little prospects outside of the clothing industry, so they have no other choices. Brands such as Gap, Adidas, and H&M have been criticized for using child labor, paying wages of 50 cents per hour, and demanding 10-hour shifts. In order to provide these cheap prices which attract us to fast fashion brands, companies take advantage of poor, inhumane, and unsafe working conditions in outsourced factories that have few regulations. 6 years ago, a Bangladesh factory collapsed, killing 1,134 factory workers, the majority of whom were young women like myself. This factory manufactured clothing for popular companies such as Zara, Walmart, and The Children's Place. Companies deny association and liabilities with these sketchy factories through using intermediary agents or subcontractors. A New York fashion company supplier explained this as the company having one eye open and one eye closed. Aside from the human costs of fast fashion, through pollution, waste, and resource usage, manufacturing of cheap fast fashion clothing has a negative impact on the environment as well. Fast fashion's pressure to reduce cost and time leads to cutting environmental corners. Toxic chemicals are used in the dyeing of textiles for those companies' clothing. Textile dyeing is the second largest polluter of clean water globally. These chemicals are toxic, bioaccumulative, and destructive to hormones, and carcinogenic. So the shirt that you're wearing may be causing cancer, who knows? Polyester fibers being washed contributes to the plastic epidemic in the oceans, harming marine life. Additionally, fast fashion harms the growing communities in developing countries. Growing cotton and other materials for clothing manufacturing uses up an enormous amount of water, taken from these developing regions who already lack enough clean water to provide for their populations. Cotton is treated with harsh pesticides which are dangerous to humans and animals if exposed, leading to a lot of birth defects and other health concerns in people who live in these regions. Fast fashion creates an enormous amount of waste in landfills as well as emissions in the atmosphere. 12.8 million tons of clothing are sent to landfills in the U.S. every single year. Production of clothing is expected to grow even more rapidly in the next 10 years to 2.8 billion tons of discarded clothes. Clothing sent to landfills contaminates local soil and groundwater with chemicals. Although our clothes were produced fast, their footprint on the environment will last virtually forever, not just to the next clothing season. So, in conclusion, take a step into the mall and you'll be bombarded by flashy brands and dirty secrets. We should stop supporting brands who observe fast fashion practices despite their cheap price tags. Fast fashion takes advantage of overseas laborers, oppressing low pay and inhumane conditions upon them. Clothing produced through fast fashion harms the environment of its agricultural origin as well as our own when it reaches the landfill. We should embrace investing in high-quality, basic clothing pieces and support secondhand and homemade clothing in order to reduce the dangerous impacts of fast fashion that live within our shopping malls. Are there any questions?
Yes. Do you have any suggestions for alternatives to fast fashion?
There's lots of resources online about which brands observe these shortcuts to making their clothes cheaper, and like which brands you can avoid to minimize your impact. And you can also shop in secondhand stores or invest in more expensive but better quality clothes that will last a longer time so you won't throw them away as fast.
Keagan, you mentioned a few companies in your presentation. Can you review those for me one more time?
The companies that I'm familiar with that I saw that observe these are H&M, which is in our own mall, The Children's Place, also in our own mall, both stores of which I've worn lots of clothes from. Zara, Walmart, Forever 21 used to be one of those companies, but they've changed a lot of their manufacturing, as well as American Eagle, and probably a lot of others I don't remember.
What resources would you recommend to someone to spread awareness about fast fashion?
There's lots of petitions online for creating new regulations so that companies can't use subcontractors without, and like will have to abide by the US's labor codes and laws. So you can spread those on social media. That's really helpful.